This is the 21.5 Show.
You're on 121.5, the emergency frequency.
Whether you're a professional pilot or want to be one, you're in the right place.
Let's get started.
Join professional aviators Dylan and Max as they talk their experience in the airlines, business aviation, and more.
Life is good.
Industry experts, unique stories, and plenty of fun. This is the 21.5 Show.
Here we go.
Welcome back. It's another episode of the 21.5 Show, the show for professional pilots. Two professional pilots behind the microphone today. My name is Dylan, a business aviation specialist, joined by my friend Maxwell. Hello.
Hello. I'm
Jack of all trades, Max.
Airline. Yeah, I'm on an airline overnight, but also involved. Wear many different hats.
I've got to take
business
issue with
aviation.
your airline here. Are they cutting corners? Because I see a popcorn ceiling in your camera there. What are
It's
you guys
one of
at
those hotels, good location. You know, it's a DoubleTree downtown
Okay.
Spokane, right on the river. 20 hours of bliss.
That actually
Right
is a
before
great
me.
secret great overnight in the summer, I think.
It is. It's great. In the summertime, it's awesome. Yeah, and there's
River,
as
bicycles.
soon as this is done, I'm going to go mount a bicycle and head out.
I love it. One of those
Beautiful
like,
day.
hey, do you have Lyft? I've been having it lets you unlock bikes for free.
What?
Yeah.
I have Lyft Pink, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
that's what I have because of the Chase card. We'll get into some credit card discussion here in a little bit, but yeah, hot little tip. If you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, which is one that we both use and recommend, you can you get Lyft Pink, and then Lyft Pink lets you unlock bikes for free all over town. It's really cool. I did an hour-long ride in Chicago a few weeks ago, and it was $3.
How do you... All right.
This is
We'll have
we'll
to-
talk about this offline.
More riveting.
Yeah.
Don't we have a email where somebody just for your credit card knowledge?
That's why I said, well, we're going to
gave
get
you
into that
praise?
later.
Oh,
Yes.
good. All right.
Set us
Perfect.
right up.
Terrific.
Yes. All right. We have a lot to get into and not a lot of time, so we're just going to kind of blaze right through this one. We got to start, a few episodes ago, we had the Challenger 350 versus G280 debate, and then we
Yeah, I
got
think that's been settled.
a lot of, yeah, and I think
Unless you have
I won
dogs that
that one.
require a lot of floor room.
No, I won that
I think
one.
we know who the winner. Okay, yeah. Maybe
But
it hasn't.
now, the latest you sent me was the AIN product survey results for 2024. So I'll let you drive for this segment. Why don't you go ahead?
It was interesting. The word on the street is always people complain about Bombardier, I feel like, and about Textron. But Bombardier rose to the top this year. It's pretty impressive, really.
Yes.
And Gulfstream fell from grace. I love that they have a survey on price on parts pricing, and
Yeah.
Gulfstream scored very low.
Yeah. That's not really that much of a surprise.
Yeah.
What is
no,
it? What
no
is that? What
surprise.
did our boy Brooks at Veris, what did he say? His saying is Gulfstream is very proud of their parts.
Very diplomatic.
But yeah, it's funny because I just had a conversation with an operator the other day who operates Bombardier. And he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm going to take my airplane to Tucson for our next big event because he goes, some of the other places, they've put a ton of effort into it. And they're actually crawling, getting some good notoriety for
Well,
the
that's what it
work
says.
they're
They've
doing, so-
hired a bunch of people, and they got a lot of the supply chain stuff taken care of. And then they, which I thought was really interesting, in here, if you read, they were have these programs in other countries to help ensure a steady supply of technicians.
Right. Because
Which was
that was my friend's comment. Is he goes, I was at a third party vendor, MRO place, and he goes, they lost too much talent, and now it's just sort of there's too many unskilled workers there, and so that to me, it's always comes down to is who are the people, especially when you go into any heavy inspection, how many times have you done this before? Because that's a huge variable in the completion costs and troubleshooting, and so
Well, and that's part of the deal in Mesa, which is a new facility.
Yeah.
So Gulfstream shows up, says they're building Savannah West in Mesa, Arizona, essentially. And so they rented some hangars and they got this thing going, and they're building like 250,000 square feet facility. It's massive, but they came in and Textron had a facility there. So they showed up and basically poached a bunch of people from Textron. So it's all new people,
Right.
Mostly new people, I should say. And
So they don't even know the airframe.
And that service center has had its struggles. I've been on the receiving end of it twice now, going to pick up an airplane and taking
Max's
off.
picture might be in the break room at that facility. We don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's like with a big red X through it. No, it was pretty funny. I was explaining this to Christian the other day. I'm like, there's a way to talk when things are going bad that shows to be nice and respectful, but there's no mistake that you are not messing around.
Yeah.
That's the way to toe the line, because pissing people off and just being a jerk doesn't serve your cause at all. But
can you give me an example?
There's a way.
Can you
But there is a way that people know, like if there's only so much time to finish, 2 airplanes and there's 5 airplanes, there's a way to convey that you need to be one of those 2 airplanes that gets finished. Like basically, and also knowing that their day is going to be worse if you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
from a persistent standpoint. And
yeah.
Other things, but
it's a fine line.
Anyway.
Do you have any examples?
I mean, I just went there.
Any wording? Did you have a great way of wording that? Like, how would you, if I'm the service center and you're in that situation, what would be the way that you would phrase that for our listeners
It's hard to say
give them a tool without being in the mind, without the Sicilian fire? Just
so we had the same guy that was on that was in charge at Mesa last time when we took an airplane there for I don't even remember whatever it is, but we go to take off. The landing gear are locked in the down position, but the air ground sensors say it's in the air, which is immediately what you think of. And then as soon as we broke ground, landing gear up, the gear don't go up. We get all these warning messages. The TRs are failed, all this stuff. So we come back around and land and taxi back. We're like, guys, what did you do? Like, we didn't even take this thing in here for the landing gear. What? And we ended up Ubering. It's like an hour, dude.
Yeah,
it's the complete other side of town. Go back home, wait for them to screw around, and then go back, pick it up. Anyway, missed an owner trip, whole thing.
Oh.
But anyway, so now we bring it back for a warranty, a speed brake actuator that's just been leaking, right? And of course, we needed to get the part. It's like, it's 90 days out somewhere. I'm like, what if this thing was like really leaking where it was unusable? It's like, sorry, we don't have any for 90 days. Like, but luckily it wasn't that bad. So we bring it back in. And we we start the airplane, you do a flight control check before taxi, right? And then you go out and then there's one more flight control check on the before takeoff for some reason.
Right.
So we do the second flight, everything's flying. We go to the runway, taxi around and do the flight control check. And we get a message. It says the elevator hops, hard over protection system fail. We're like, dude, you're done, right? So turn around, taxi back to the service center, and I text Jason. I'm like, we're coming back, when I sent him a picture of the message. And so we taxi back, and he's standing there, and he has the, like, oh, crap, like,
he knows.
Look on his face. I'm like, hey, Jason, bet you didn't expect to see us again. And he's like, oh, no. And I'm like, what did you guys touch in the elevator? And, there was this kind of nuisance message that we told them about, and they re-rigged it, and they had preemptively ordered the sensor. And it's not really their fault, honestly.
Right.
Like, I'm like, we talked about it. They rang the sensor for resistance, which is what the manual says, check the resistance. And then they found that it was like kind of, there was a rigging aspect of it that was out of spec. They fixed that, and they thought, oh, perfect, we got the problem. Well, it turns out to be an intermittently bad sensor, right? Which it checked good when they had it in the hangar, and then we get out and it bakes in the 180 degree heat on the black horizontal stabilizer or elevator. Whatever. So they took it back and to fix it. But I dude, there were, like, in that case, there was nothing I need to say. Like, they know at that point. I'm like, well, let me just this is what I said. I remember. Now I remember. I said, all right, Jason, here's the situation. Let me just set the landscape for you here. Okay. As you know, this is the second time this has happened. We live on the other side of town, which is fortunate because at least we don't live in Dallas or somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I said, but we have a trip on Sunday. I need to make that trip. So I need you to figure out how to dedicate the maximum amount of resources to fixing this problem. And so I just said, I'm going to go home
Yeah.
Stay in touch. Please give me an update before you go home today of where we're at and what the plan is for tomorrow. This is like Friday, so we had Saturday, so anyway.
That's reasonable, I think.
It is, but it's just kind of like, all right, dude.
Yeah,
like,
we all know.
Let's call somebody in from home. Yeah. Let's do what needs to be done here.
Yeah. Yeah, so. It's so these service centers, it's crazy. They're so person dependent, I think, because when you have those great managers of people, and then also people with knowledge of the airframe, it goes so far. But then you don't know if that person, Duncan just stole them, they're gone, or it's like we need some sort of tracking system for these like people that have been in the business for forever, that make the difference on this. And so it's weird in these training centers or these maintenance centers where it's like, these guys are great and they have this great reputation, but you lose a couple key people and then all of a sudden it's a completely different ballgame. So
totally. Or they come from other airframes, which like this is the 280 is designed by Israeli aircraft industry. It's not like doesn't have a lot of similarities through the line. But when you buy a new airplane, they send out this whole team, right? Like a cabin support specialist, which is like flight attendant and tells you, and then the pilots that come out and fly with you for a little bit, and you get a product support specialist, I think is what he's called. And this dude is like the guru on the plane, like teaches the tricks on servicing the lav and all this stuff, right? So we have this dude, his name is Mark. He's awesome at Gulfstream. So we text him like sometimes like literally in the cockpit with the engines running a couple times. We're like, dude, what is this? And he's like, pull the circuit breaker and then it works. I mean, he saves the day. So we always go to our boy Mark and check in. And this is a known issue on this thing where the sensor, if it sits in the heat and it gets hot, it can cause a fault and blah, blah, blah. And you just need to cool it off. And so we pull back to the service center. And I'm like, it may be this because you guys had it out on the ramp. It's Phoenix. It's the summer. It's the afternoon. And maybe it was a heat thing. I said, so they're like, we've never heard of that before. I'm like, so that's a good example of the disconnect, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's a known documented issue yet. Like, sometimes I think those things out on the line don't make it back to the service center. So,
yeah.
That was the other thing. I was like, I know you're tight on hangar space, but the tail needs to be in the shade or in the hangar before we depart. So we don't have to do this exercise again. He's like, yeah. So.
It reminds me of, there was a couple flight instructors at Embry-Riddle, I remember when I was in school there, that had the like really cool stereo systems. We need to do an entire episode based on car stereo systems since you've been up to it. But she would drive around and her amp would overheat, so she'd put like ice packs on it. Do you remember this?
Oh my God, no. Who was that?
I got to think of her name. I can't remember. She had like a little Toyota, and I just remember there was like, it was like a little like ice pack type thing to keep the amp from overheating. So maybe we can get you one of those. Can we get a little, some little APU bleed air maybe shot up into the tail?
It's funny because the product supports guy, put it in the hangar, let it cool off, or you can spray some water on it. It's a freaking T-tail, dude. I'm like, what are we going to call the fire department over to, hey, would you mind,
Christian, I've got good news and bad news.
We'll call can you fill the de-ice truck up with just cold water, please?
Call the fire truck water. Over. We'll just
tail only, please. Tail only.
Oh my God.
Brakes are set. We're ready.
That's hilarious. Okay, last thing on the product support survey, Max. I think we need to talk about our dream airplane for a minute.
Well, hold on. We got to just give the quick ranking because.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
So it looks like we had overall average, and this is based on categories of the service centers, the authorized service centers, cost per hour, programs, parts availability, cost of parts, AOG response, warranty fulfillment, technical manuals, technical reps, and overall aircraft reliability. So it's an aggregate of that.
Yep.
You got Bombardier.
Boom.
Which would include, the Learjet Challenger Global, 8.6. Embraer with the Phenom Legacy and Praetor at 8.4. Dassault, obviously Falcon 8.3. Gulfstream mid and large cabin, 8.0. Textron, Citation Beechcraft Hawker 7.9, and then the turboprops, you have PC-12 8.4, the Textron with the King Air to 7.9, and then turboprops. They have just because it is so awesome, they have to make a whole category of turboprops parentheses that are out of production. You have Mitsubishi with the 9.0.
Absolute tour de force.
Yeah. So the best part is that the Mitsubishi Turbo, the MU2 is what the airplane that they're referring to, and that has been out of production for like 40 years, literally 40 years, and yet they still win every year in product support against all the OEMs. I just think that is the best, dude. And it's true. I mean, it's not,
it's not like they're packing the ballots or it's a fake election.
No, well, I mean, you have to understand MU2 owners are very dedicated. They're mostly owner operated. Like it's people that are, it's a very tight knit group. So they all certainly write in and vote and,
Yeah.
So, so they have this article in here, out of production since 1986, the Mitsubishi MU2 nevertheless continues to rank as high or higher than any of the newer designs in several categories covered by AAN's product support survey. Backed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries America, its facilities in Dallas and 5 MU2 authorized service centers, more than 220 of the turboprop twins still fly worldwide, largely thanks to its support apparatus.
Go.
Registering no lower than a 9.0 in 8 categories, including its overall rating, MHIA finished with a perfect 10 in warranty fulfillment and a 9.4 in overall aircraft reliability.
Yeah, because there's no airplanes under warranty. They're all 40 years old.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, that part.
We haven't screwed up a single warranty claim.
But you have to understand,
years.
though, to their credit, dude, they maintain spares. Like they still, you can get parts. And they even support. They used to put on for free at the manufacturer's expense until just before COVID, something called RPM, which is like the big MU2 convention, and they they would rent the hotel. MHIA would do the whole thing, which obviously they have no real revenue to gain in the game. I mean, they're involved in some of the service centers, but I mean, they're still dedicated service centers, the whole thing for an airplane that's been out of production since 1986. Insane.
If you or someone has a Mitsubishi MU2 that you'd like to sell to us for a very reasonable price, please let us know.
Round dials are okay.
Round dials are fine.
That's my plan.
We had a big discussion. We said we would fly the round dial back to the good old days.
Yeah, a lot of owner operators, like lower time and stuff like that, and so they really want that glass. I'm like, dude, I'll take round dials and King radios.
That's right.
Let's go.
Let's do it. You can do everything you need on an iPad in a little suction mount.
iPad, slap an ADS-B in on the dash and move out smartly.
Rip. Just destroy eardrums all over the country.
70 gallons an hour, just ripping at 300 knots. Not a care in the world. Making just heads turn with those Garretts screaming on the ramp.
9 different fuel ports for the
My kids will be in the back, very unimpressed with everything that's going on.
Could care less. Look at this. We got the bench seat.
This is not as big as the G280 did.
Yeah, exactly.
This sucks. It's so loud.
It's too loud. What are those propellers doing? Why don't they feather?
Why is this not a jet?
All right. Good topic there. Let's jump into the book club, chapter 8. We just finished. Interesting. I'm talking about Eddie Acker for a lot of the chapter, and Air Florida. They started with a kind of a recap of Air Florida's quick growth, which turned out to be disastrous, both financially and also cost a lot of folks their lives. Air Florida Flight 90, you may remember. They did a little recap on that and that crash out of Washington, D.C. I remember studying that.
I remember that
college.
Image of the Air Florida tail.
Yeah.
Not personally, that was, 3 years old? Was that in 82? Let's see. Back in 82.
Was it? Okay. See, I wasn't.
That's the same year as Uncle Rico was playing, remember?
That's right.
From Napoleon Dynamite.
Throw a football over that mountain.
I could throw it.
Could be sitting in a hot tub, soaking it up with my soulmate.
Break the wrist, walk away.
Yeah.
That's your
yeah. So, well, I mean, I was just born in 82, so I didn't see that, but I remember even in college we studied it, and the book goes through a good recap of the error chain and how many different things went wrong, and the nozzle for the de-ice wasn't working correctly, and
it wasn't putting the right mixture.
They tried
of water
to power
to
back,
fluid.
and then they brought the airplane into the thrust of the airplane ahead of them to try and warm the wings. And the pilots were inexperienced in winter ops. I mean, it was just
It's just crazy too to think with like in 121, like it's
Yeah.
been a minute for you, but the like how seriously we take this, you know? Now, I mean, even in that Part 91, you know,
for sure,
there's a requirement for visual and tactile inspection and the whole, you know, all of this stuff. But it's just it and you read about this stuff and you're like, I mean, man,
they talked about the
82
slush on the runway, and you're like, did the manual even have like a additive for, you know, a slush?
Yeah, right.
Then,
And
who knows? Like, crazy.
And like, how was there was, you know, ice on the I'm assuming it was an EPR probe.
Yeah.
It was saying, you know, but those are like heated. Like, so how was that?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You think
anyway,
the heats would be on? Who knows? Yeah.
A lot of things went wrong and they blasted off. And the thing, it seems like too, you have all these errors leading up to it, to the takeoff, and then the takeoff itself. Like they knew something was wrong prior to V1. And, you know, it's like we always say, it's much easier to sit here in the DoubleTree here and armchair fly the thing and be critical. But, you know, if you don't think the airplane's going to fly, you got to reject, which is a very broad thing and a tough decision to make in a split second. But
on a slushy runway and at DCA, which is on a river, where you like
and they had Eastern was over the lights.
Yeah, right.
They called on final, so they knew Eastern's right behind it. Like, you know, there's a lot
with
of
air
pressure.
traffic controllers that have been recently replaced, because I mean it was just like
these guys had not very much experience in winter ops, and it was just
Yeah.
really bad. And so anyway, they took off with ice in the wing. And they weren't developing full power either.
Yeah,
and anyway, put it in the drink. So that basically was the nail in the coffin for all their bookings evaporated, and then they couldn't survive because they had a huge debt load, and so that was
a few
that
times
was it for Florida.
Yeah, and a few times in this chapter they talked about like this crash or another was like a strike, and it's like the airline can only operate for like a few days with that if there's no revenue coming in, and that's exactly what we saw in COVID. Remember, COVID was just like, oh yeah, we're just shutting down, like there's no air travel, and all the airlines are like, yeah, well we're like we can run for a week, you know, and everyone. And I remember everyone like shelling.
That might be the
airline.
best thing that could ever happen to Southwest, because we always, you know, we still have the best balance sheet of any airline.
Yeah.
We just sit there and watch everyone else go out of business and
I mean,
come back to
seriously, it's crazy.
to a ghost town. All right, we're here.
You look at it's just so capital intensive to operate, and so that's what I wanted to get into. That was one of the takeaways from my from reading this chapter. Eddie Acker is kind of the main person. He was running Air Florida, and then right when Air Florida was like doing the best, he jumps over to Pan Am to try and save Pan Am. But kind of the theme was, okay, we're going to grow, we're going to do all this stuff, and somehow they can always find people.
Hold on. Before we move along, I highlighted this one quote.
Okay.
So this is when they're taking the runway. The co-pilot prepared to take the controls. Slushy runway, he said to the captain. Do you want me to do anything special for this, or just go for it? No, Wheaton, who's the captain, said. Unless you got anything special you'd like to do. And they blasted off, and that was it.
Clearly, they should have done that. What is the Boeing 737 soft field technique? Have you guys no? Okay. Let's get that nose off the ground right
anyway,
away.
yeah. So Eddie Acker bails, goes to the legendary Pan Am to try and right the sinking ship.
Yeah, and just like even before at Air Florida, it was like, oh, it's so easy to expand and get more airplanes, and that's like and when you work at an airline, that's like the high time. You're like, ooh, this is great. We're expanding new routes, growing, and especially with the seniority system too. You're like, oh, this is great. More upgrades. Everything is good. But it's like that reminds me of like when a stock is like ripping and it's up near its peak and like everyone's in the euphoria stage. You're like, this is amazing. It's just like to get there, it's just an unsustainable peak.
Well, what's interesting too, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure this is an accurate way to connect the dots here, but reading this chapter, what airline right now reminds you of Pan Am?
Who? Gave away their route. Now they're trying to grow. Maybe United?
Just that and like the amenities and some of the stuff, or like the Sky Club on top of the Pan Am.
Oh.
It's just, for some reason, it made me think of Delta. And
really?
Like, you know, we're picking people up in Porsches and driving around the airport and like doing all this stuff that's expensive. But, you know, that being said, Delta's making tons of money right now.
Right.
So they're certainly doing, like I always still say, Delta navigated the reemergence from COVID and to meet the demand of travel the best. Like they provided 9 different levels of tickets that you can capture everybody at every budget level to meet whatever premium or not premium needs they desire, which captures a ton of revenue. So it's just it's interesting. It's just in Pan Am, basically got a little too big for its britches and thought they were the premier, high class airline, and ran themselves into the red.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is it's like it seems like they can always finance that next airplane, and then they get into more of the fare war stuff. Oh well, Braniff cut, so we're cutting. We're doing a $99 fare.
We can't lose market share. Yeah,
it's like we cannot lose market share, and it's like to me, it's just this crazy thing because it's like, well, what are you gonna like? When does the fare ever go back up? Because it's like we're gonna like cut these fares. Everyone knows you
when
can.
Enough people go out of business.
I guess that's like the only plan is like, well, we've just got to drive people out of business, and then we can actually turn a profit. And that's the story as old as time with these airlines forever. Is just been new entrant into the market, fare war. Somebody gets bled out. And then maybe they can start to make money for a little bit.
Maybe there's overcapacity, so everyone's cutting costs. Then people get bled out and they go out of business, and then some sort of economic shift happens. The demand for travel goes down. Yeah. Now everybody's stuck to have more overcapacity. It's just
and this is why it's always a cycle, and that's why we warn folks when they get into this business. It's like it's never the same, and we were riding high in 2023, and you and I were like, be careful, because anytime you're a pilot and you're like, this is amazing, we're all getting new contract, and everything like that.
If you're a new captain, I love how in the airlines, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but everybody refers to their FO house or their captain house.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you might want to stay in your FO house for a couple years.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy that captain house just yet.
You just be careful. So another great chapter. I think it just really did a great job of illustrating like how brutal those fare cuts can be, and then the concessions they had to make. And then the chapter ends with them like convincing all the unions at Pan Am to take a 10% pay cut. You're like, yeah, but it will snap back in 3 years. And it's like, they know that there's no way they're going to snap back in 3 years, but that's 3 years from now. That's a problem for another day. So
yeah, right. They're just trying to survive through next week. So.
And it's funny how, we recently had a conversation with a union president that we'll be sharing soon. And, it's just, there's so many hard lessons that the unions have had to learn over the years of like these promises that were broken and everything else, they're just, B scales and just all these different things, and just how everything's evolved. So that's why one of the reasons I think this book is so important is to give you that appreciation for all of the times that pilots have gotten the shaft, and so you can appreciate like where they are today. So any other thoughts on that before we move on, Max?
No, that's it. It always bums me out because I think Pan Am would have been so cool because Pan Am's had such a cool history. It's like always bums me out that it's gone. Yeah. My next read right now I'm finishing up the. I took a break. Usually I only read nonfiction books, and then I took a break and I'm reading almost finished with the Jack Carr Terminal List series. Have you read that?
No.
It's highly entertaining.
Okay.
So I'm almost done with that, but then after I'm finished with the last one there, I'm going to read Sky Gods, which is the fall of Pan Am. Yeah. But I read this other really cool book. I'm trying to find it. It's on my iPad somewhere. I can't remember which app, but it was about a Pan Am flying boat that was out in the like Pacific or whatever, and when World War II broke out.
Oh, we've talked about this before, yeah.
Oh, we did? Yeah. Okay. We got to read that one too. Yeah. That's a really good book. Well, for those of you who didn't hear, they basically had to go the long way around the world back to the U.S., and they're just like literally figuring it out, like landing on rivers and finding 50-gallon drums of fuel to like it's a wild story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
I digress.
Let's keep moving. Reviews. Couple good ones here. I will read the first one. Thanks to all of our listeners that write reviews for us. Apple Podcasts app, you can write a review. If you do it, shoot us an email. We'll send you some stickers for your trouble. This one comes from Khalid, and he says, a fire podcast with 3 flame emojis. I found this podcast in the beginning of 2023 when I was a senior in high school. I was just beginning my aviation journey then, and now I'm a CFI waiting for a CJO to work at my flight school. This podcast has accompanied me along the way, providing great insight into the world of aviation in a fun and entertaining way. Although I may not benefit from this podcast as much as more experienced corporate and airline pilots, since I'm relatively inexperienced, I still think it is a good listen for anyone looking for valuable industry information to stay in the loop. When the time comes, I'll be using information I got from this podcast to further my career by going to people like Tim Pope and Spitfire Elite. Listening to you guys has definitely made me more aware of what's going on in aviation. It's taught me to think like a pilot outside of the cockpit. I love how you guys appeal to the younger audience as well. I find it hilarious whenever y'all use Gen Z slang. It's awesome. This pod high key slaps, and so does the intro. Please don't change the intro. Joel's voice is soul of this show. Wow. Stick with the OG music too. Anything new won't feel authentic. I absolutely love this show and hope that one day I get to meet you guys in person, and that's from Khalid. P.S. I was the guy trolling Dylan on Instagram, counting the days waiting for the luggage review videos.
I remember that guy.
When I heard Dylan talk about it, I laughed my butt off in the car. PSS, I think it's supposed to be PPS, but that's okay. If you guys think Gen Z slang is odd, then you're not ready for Gen Alpha brain rot. This podcast is straight Phantom Tax Skibbity Toilet Riz down in Ohio.
Oh, dude, we're
we've got between the two of us, we have 5 Gen
dude.
Zs running around, so we're painfully aware of what's going on.
We're down with the skibbity toilet.
Yeah,
we are literally commanding our kids to go riz chicks.
Yeah.
At
we should tell that
ripe
story.
age of like 8 or 9.
Riz points.
What are you talking about? Come on, go riz those girls. I'll give you. Did you say like you'll give them $5 if somebody?
No.
What?
No, remember those girls had a lemonade stand, and we told our 2 youngest, and we're like, go talk to those girls. They have a little lemonade.
Oh yeah, we gave them some cash,
and we gave them money to go buy the lemonade.
Buy some lemonade.
And said, no, don't just buy the lemonade. Go talk to them. I said, ask them questions about themselves.
Yeah,
and then listen to what they say.
Talk about you. Ask about them. That's the secret. Then listen. And then ask them if they want to meet up at the family center later for some air hockey.
Exactly.
They did too. They succeeded.
Yeah, they worked it. Shout out to those guys. They were working it.
Yeah, my kid Pierce, he threw down some riz.
Yeah,
got it done.
He knows how to bring it.
That's my
I
boy.
like it. All right, you want to read the next one? It's on the next
He's gonna be
page.
so embarrassed if he hears that.
Yeah, this will be so good. Rizzler.
I don't think he's much of a podcast guy though. All right, from the Adventure Pack. Just what the doctor ordered. Fellas, I stumbled on your podcast a few months ago, and now it's a highlight of my day every time there's a new episode. I'm a Career 2.0 aviator, and I appreciate the value you guys are putting out there. I've learned a ton from you and always enjoy laughing along with you. As silly as it sounds, keep on doing all of the gear reviews. Just make sure you wear some shoes next time. Keep up the great work, Gozer. That's funny. I have 2 things. Because remember, you were like, oh, I don't know if we're going to get this out on Tuesday, like on our summer break. I'm like, nobody cares if it comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. This seems like one of those dudes that's like, where is Tuesday? Where's this episode? Now he's putting all this pressure. I don't know. I still don't care. Whatever. It'll come out when it's ready.
Come out.
And we filmed all these videos. And I go look back. And I'm like, oh man, my feet are in a bunch of these videos. I'm like, we're not doing it again. So just roll with it.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, do you want to re-record it? I'm like, no.
No chance.
I don't care.
Don't care. I don't care what day the show comes out. I don't care if my feet are exposed.
It's not about the feet. It's about the content.
That's right. It's all about the bags. All right.
But in case you are into the feet, I do have an OnlyFans.
That's right.
OnlyFan.
That was the real secret. It was the secret Trojan horse in the whole deal.
New revenue stream.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were talking about doing a Patreon for people to subscribe to the show, but I think that's going to be better.
Then we see these people just crushing it on OnlyFans, so we figured we'd start there, see where it went.
Okay, that's going to do it for the comments and reviews. Thanks so much for everyone.
Maybe Joel should start on OnlyFans. That voice.
We should check in. We should check in on his powered parachute update.
See if you ever got that PC-12, his dream airplane ride in the PC-12.
Oh, we should call him.
We need to find one of those clips of Joel, like when he's doing his day job as a agriculture reporter or whatever he is.
Yeah.
Where he's like, remember that one where he's like a farmer?
I meant the cheese.
Yeah, there's
tasting.
a farmer. No, the best was, remember there's a farmer driving in like a single seat cab of a tractor, and Joel's kind of perched on the fender.
Well.
Well, yeah, on the.
He's like,
I'm here live from the field in Midwestern Ohio. We're talking about soybean production.
Farmer Jackson.
This is
using
Leonard.
a new,
He's farmed here, third generation farmer from.
We're using a new crop dusting technique here.
Leonard,
Man.
tell the listeners about how you're furrowing this field.
What kind of implement is behind this tractor? I love Joel. I hope he's doing well.
He's the best.
We got to call him soon. Okay. On to the mailbag, Max. Lots, as always, to get to here. But first, I got to tell you, I learned something interesting and new from our friends at Advanced Aircrew Academy. Aircrewacademy.com is their website. I visited it today and checked out their blog. They had a new post on RNAV hotel approaches. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah.
RNAV H approaches?
No, I literally knew nothing about it until I read this.
Yeah. I read the blog. So, new RNAV H approaches are apparently visual approaches that they are working on for some business aviation airports, and I'm a little bit excited about. Well, I was excited until I read one fact. Unfortunately, the bad news is right now they're only for Honeywell platforms.
Yeah, and you have to pay for the subscription, which Honeywell usually is very reasonally priced. Everything.
Just like them and Collins. They need a fair. We talk about all these fair wars and battles. Why
we
can't
need
we
a
get
database fair war.
Yeah,
we need a chart. That's the thing. I'm going to bring an antitrust lawsuit against Jeppesen. Why has nobody done that?
Oh, it's the same. I mean, you're just locked in all these.
Oh, you need some Mexico charts?
Yeah, we got you.
Do you? Open up your pocketbook, pal.
Yeah. Especially because their costs have probably gone way down since they don't have to print anything anymore either in mail.
Yeah, exactly. Why is there no competition there?
All right. Anyway, back to these RNAV H approaches. This is cool because they developed them for the airports we need: Henderson, Little Cabo, Peachtree, Scottsdale, Van Nuys, Teterboro. I mean, this is where business aviation is happening, and.
Dude, it's so funny that we're talking about this right now. So I flew yesterday into Las Vegas twice, and they're landing on the 8s. 8s and the 19, or 8, whatever. 8 and 19. One of the 8, one of the 19 runways, right? Is what they're landing, which is unusual for Las Vegas. And they had charted visual approaches to both of those runways. Yeah. And it was the smoothest I've flown into Las Vegas in years, dude. And I landed on each runway because I flew in there twice, which is very uncommon too. And I'm like, why are we not doing this for every single runway? Like, what are we doing? Just right from the arrival, like an RNAV Zulu. But since not everybody can do the RNAV Zulu, it doesn't always work because they got vectoring somebody. You request it and they're like, oh, the spacing is not going to work today. Turn left heading 270 vectors for the ILS, like it's 1942 again. Yeah. Well, and then we have these, but they don't have them to 25 left, which is the runway they use 99% of the time, or 19 right, or any of that stuff. But this was the only time. I guess it's always 25 left, like almost always, or the ones, and they don't have it for either of those runways. So in this odd configuration, they're running these RNAV visual approaches for whatever reason they have them to those runways, and everything's working awesome. I don't get it.
Yeah. That's the real problem is like here in Scottsdale, right? They've got one for runway 21 now, which is great, except one little detail. Pretty much every time that you're coming into Scottsdale from the north and would be loading this, there's going to be a traffic conflict that you're going to have to figure out on your own, by the way. And you're going to have to jump off this arrival or this visual and avoid the traffic on your own. And then resume. So I mean, it's just like the best way.
There's this dead zone, dude. Yeah. Where they're like, I think he's on the practice approach to Deer Valley, but we're not talking to him.
Who knows?
That's approach. And then you get on tower. Yeah, we're not talking to him either. He's out there.
Good luck. And it's just every time. It's funny.
We call it the gauntlet.
It's funny because we take it for granted flying into Scottsdale every day. But there's a lot of people that are kind of intimidated to fly in here. That aren't based here.
It's hard to see at night. It is so hard to see. Yeah. Like I never see the airport. I know where it is based on other landmarks, but you never seeing the airport. It's tough.
Yeah. So hopefully these will help out. And I spoke with Dan at Advanced Aircrew Academy. He says he's got some folks that he recommends that we talk to. So we may actually do an entire episode on this because I think it'd be pretty interesting.
So is this a radius? But it made it sound like it's a radius to fix.
It is. I'm hoping we can get somebody from the FAA in there too, just so we can, an ATC or ATC, and just kind of talk about what is this realistic? Because I really salute the idea of let's
Dude,
get
it's
some
the same thing though. Like
challenging
we've had the
approaches.
Arnav Zulu approaches to Scottsdale. Have you ever once heard anybody ever fly one?
Exactly.
Ever?
That's why I want to talk to him and be like, this is great. I salute what we're doing here, but we got to be able to actually use it.
Great idea.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'd never even heard of him until today. So that's a great trivia. Nick, if you're interviewing, if you're like interviewing someone tomorrow, if you're like a chief pilot or somebody, be like, tell me about the Arnav
Or
Hotel.
you're in a check ride and things get a little hairy.
Yeah,
and like,
just pull out the Arnav Hotel.
Can I ask you a question? You seem very astute.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about these Arnav Hotel approaches?
Yeah. And then our listeners will be like, yeah, I have a great blog post from Advanced Aircrew Academy. Let's pull it up together and we'll read and we'll learn. Boom. Thanks, Advanced Aircrew Academy, for their sponsorship of the Mailbag. On to the Mailbag. Email number 1. Hey guys, just listened to your show about international crossings and GPS spoofing. Good stuff. I've done the Blue Spruce route 5 times in King Airs. We do some of the oceanic things, but not the whole clearance that the NAT tracks require. No CPDLC, just VHF and an old HF radio that didn't work that well. Thanks for the info on how the jets do it up high. I'll hopefully have 2 more crossings in the King Air before I retire from the Army and move on to faster, higher flying stuff. On the GPS jamming spoofing front, there is such a thing as an encrypted GPS, but only the military has it. I believe it uses separate frequencies also. I've had encrypted GPS jammed also while flying in unnamed areas with lots of sand. So there's that. Here is a great video on how INS laser ring gyros, fiber optic gyros, etc. work. He also talks about the new quantum gyros and quantum nav systems being developed that could be more accurate than GPS and may be even used for vertical guidance on approaches someday. I'll post the video in the show notes after I watch it because I'd like to see it myself.
I'll put that on my list for
great podcast. They are slappy or whatever the kids say these days. And that's from Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I've read
the last part, dude. He's proposing a reverse sticker. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
You never get stickers.
Yeah. He's going to send us some stickers.
Says I'll turn it around to you. If you give me a P.O. box, I'll send you some stickers from our unit. Jeremy.
I already sent him our address.
I'm going to have to go out and get a P.O. box. But
yeah. Once we get that figured out, we're going to be rocking. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I've read a couple things about quantum nav. It does sound like, because it's all in, you don't need a signal from anything, apparently. So
sounds like INS all over again, huh?
Right. Exactly. I don't know how you initialize a quantum nav, but maybe we'll learn in that video. Great email. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. Few things. On 7/31, I retired. 53 years since my solo. 50 as a professional pilot. 40 years flying Gulfstreams. G1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Managing and flying. Those are the type ratings. Managing and flying various other aircraft managing an Enterprise for the past 20. I've had a great run in its time. I will be happy flying my 414A for a while, and we'll figure out what's next in the new year. I listened to the last podcast and discussion about lights. For some reason, this seems to get a lot of discussion. In any case, the AIM and the FAA advisory circulars address this. M4-3-23, use of aircraft lights was updated in the latest edition. Guidance about using aircraft lights during ground operations also appears in AC 91-73 Bravo, Part 91 and Part 135 single pilot procedures during taxi operations. Taxiing. Prior to commencing taxi, turn on navigation, position, anti-collision, and logo lights if available. To signal intent to other pilots, consider turning on the taxi light when the aircraft is moving or intending to move on the ground and turning it off when stopped, yielding, or as consideration to other pilots or ground personnel. Strobe lights should not be illuminated during taxi if they will adversely affect the vision of other pilots or ground personnel. Rick.
I wanted to highlight, he actually included quite a bit. There was quite a bit more information in that email about some of the procedures, but that with the taxiing part is the part I thought that was interesting. Consider turning, turn it off when stopped yielding or consideration to other pilots. That was the point.
Single pilot procedures during. Wow. So that would apply. This would apply to me in the Moose.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna have to turn on my taxi light and my nav lights during the day.
I mean, why not?
I don't know. I guess
every airplane I operate, basically, I turn the taxi light on when the airplane's moving. When I'm not, I turn the taxi light on.
I do it like in big airplanes, but I don't know. I just never really thought about it in my airplane. Now there's an AC that says I'm supposed to, so.
Got to do it. See? That's why Rick is here, to keep us in line. We appreciate it, Rick. Congratulations on your incredible career. The only hole I see in your career is we need to get him a G3 type rating somehow. You know how you can get like
You
honorary?
didn't have a 3 in there?
No, G1 and G2. You know how you can get
Well, the G2 and the G3 is no, he
pretty
does.
similar.
No, that's the same type rating.
Oh, it is?
G2 is just like G5 is for the 450, 550. The G4 is only for the 4. The G2 is for the 2 and the 2B and the 3.
Oh, so he doesn't have a hole. Okay, never mind.
No, he's got all models covered.
Jeez,
Wait, no. Wait, yeah, G6 is the 650, right?
Yeah.
And then 7 is the 500, 600.
Jiminy Christmas.
That's a lot of. And the impressive part is that he had a corporate career flying all these Gulfstreams, retired, and can still afford to fly a 414A.
That is amazing.
That's the impressive part. Hopefully he's complied with those exhaust ADs. Or he may be going back to work.
Maybe to do some
Hopefully,
contract work.
Rick, hopefully the fuel bladders were replaced recently, okay? Otherwise,
Keep us posted on that, Rick.
hopefully you have some time left on that, some currency. Go out for $4,000 a day.
Contract trips. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Okay, yeah, because I thought he needed the G3 type, but thank you for setting me straight.
And hopefully he doesn't have, has some supported Garmin avionics in there too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no 430.
You could tell Max has done his research on the 414, and in his pursuit of
no, I don't. No,
realizing
frankly,
the
I don't
holy
know
grail
that
of
much.
the MU2.
I don't know that much about him. I know a friend of mine that has one that is a retired airline pilot and had $100 and something thousand annual. So that scared me enough.
Jeez. All right, congrats, Rick. Well done. We hope that we still hear from you, even though you're retired. I'm looking forward to future emails. Next email says, "Hello, Dylan and Max. I'm a current flight student and enjoy listening to y'all's podcast when I'm painting apartments on the side." Okay. I always envisioned myself going to the regionals and then hopefully to a major airline. I've listened to a recent episode that included a question about flying a cargo 747. All of a sudden, that seems like a cool route. You should get a pilot from Atlas or Kalitta to talk to you about the life of a 747 heavy cargo operation.
Don't you worry, James. Don't you worry, buddy. We just took a new sponsor who is a pilot flying a 747, doing hot laps around the world. So we will get him on.
We are going to do
the
it.
Life. Guy also showed me the light in the utilization of packing cubes.
Oh.
Do you use packing cubes?
I do. Well, you know what? Man, that we're going so long on this podcast already. Yes, I use the packing cubes in my backpack too. It's been revolutionary. Derek is really revolutionary.
Don't worry about going too long. I hate podcasts that are so worried about going long.
Yeah, well, I got
one of my favorite podcasts. They always cut it off, like drives
right
me
when
nuts.
things are good. I know
It's the only review I've ever left on a podcast, I think, and I listen to a lot, and I'm like, was pissed. But yes, the pack, dude. I packed. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. The Luggage Works Aurora.
Yeah.
I packed for that whole Europe trip for like 10 days.
Oh, that's the bag you chose to take.
Because it does carry the most stuff.
Yeah, right.
And with those packing cubes, dude, those things are legit. You can fit so much stuff because you pack all of your stuff in there and then you pack the cube down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Dude, you don't even tell me. I'm in my backpack game is at a whole new level. Thanks to
it's
this.
a whole new thing. I mean, for like a 3-day trip, I think it's more effort than it's worth. But if you're trying to really maximize, because I told my wife, I'm like, you got to carry on for this flight. So and she figured it out too. She carried on for. I'm like, there's no excuse. You can carry on in the summertime. In the wintertime, I get it. It's different, but.
I agree. And we learned why in last episode when you talked about why you check your bag, especially when you've got places to be. Okay, next email.
Gentlemen, newer listener, enjoy the show. It nerds out just enough not to become one of those cringy A.net info war. I know more about this variant of airplane than you circle jerks. I'm a 737 pilot at United, and your raw dog challenge made me chuckle. I was Air Wisconsin for 4 years, and that's every day on the line, driving the Deuce canoe. No VNAV, no auto throttles, flying the same arrivals into Dulles or Chicago as everyone else. Lots of techniques. I used the banana bar and some old-fashioned 3-1 math in my head to calculate Stargate crossings. Have a good one. Keep up the good content. Matt L. Chicago 737 FO.
See,
even the banana is a little bit of a crutch.
I was just going to say, the Embraer...
That would violate the raw dog policy.
Yeah, you would have to turn the banana bar off for sure, because we didn't even have the banana bar in the Embraer.
Just, make sure you have a piece of paper and a pencil. You're going to be doing some math.
Yeah, no banana bar.
There actually, it's funny because in the G32, I used to know all of that, like those rules of thumb and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing of that anymore, which is kind of sad.
You know, the one I had to dig up, I think I talked about this before, was that bore sighting formula to figure out where the bottom of your radar beam is. So, you know, like where...
Well, Dylan, kind of like we talked about before, on the G280, we don't have to do that because it's a full 3D volumetric scanning radar.
So is the Challenger 350. That's not where I wanted to go with this, but I'm just saying I had to dig deep for that math.
Yeah, all right, whatever.
It's the same freaking radar, dude. And our tails don't overheat.
Oh, yeah, just like the engines are the same, Dylan. Right, it's all the same. It's all the same.
Next email says, I'll never forget where I was. I was on my lunchtime walk in front of Alligator Purse in Hyde Park Square, Cincinnati. A few weeks before, I had checked into the Columbus Airport Marriott for business, not flying, and was greeted with the thank you for being a gold member. Gold member? Not platinum? What? The desperation instantly set in.
No, depression.
Oh, the depression instantly set in. Chalk it up to COVID and no business travel for 3 years. You guys were discussing lifetime platinum status on one of the shows, and Dylan mentioned that you can double up on Marriott credit cards for points and nights. What? I already had the Marriott Visa, so then I got the Marriott Amex, and now we'll start the year off with 40 nights. I'll easily be lifetime platinum next year. Heck, I'll be titanium this year in a few months. You guys are awesome, Cliff.
Wait, so I was just talking about this with the guy I'm flying with, and how I'm like, God, if I would have known what I know now, then I would have worked a lot harder and pulled some of those techniques to get lifetime platinum.
Yeah.
Is there a way that I could do that now? Staying in lots of Marriotts, yet never getting the credit most of the time?
Well, I mean, you still fly court, but you still have some Marriott overnight.
Yeah.
So
I do.
you need both the credit cards. So that's he said 40. I think it's you get 30 nights. I think you get 15 per card. So you can get 30 nights there. You need to get 50. So can you get 20 nights in a year paid?
It's 2 a month, probably. Yeah, I would think so.
So that's what I would do. Plus, if your wife has to travel for business, you know, she can use your number.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Do you have to like list her on your account or anything?
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it. We have some friends that do that.
Dude, I got points last night at a Southwest overnight.
There you go. It's the stay though. You need the stay, not the points.
Well, I think they give you both at this one hotel.
Well, see, yeah. So
Tucson.
I would do those 2 cards and then do that, and then
pick up a month of Tucson overnight. So I'll be good.
There you go. Be hot. So yeah, do that, and then
wait. So what's the threshold? What do you have to get? 50.
Hang on. Yeah, it's 50, but you have to do it for a certain amount of years. Remember, you go into your Marriott app and you can check your lifetime status.
But on those credit cards, you get that night bonus every year.
Correct.
Is there a fee associated with those credit cards?
It's usually like $100 or $150, but then they give you a free night, so it kind of is.
It's a wash. All right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Lifetime Platinum Elite. Lifetime Platinum Elite, 600 lifetime nights plus 10 years as Platinum Elite status. So the problem is you need that 10 years of Platinum Elite status.
Well, you just sucked the wind out of my sails there.
Well, you can go look. It'll tell you like how close you are.
I don't know. What realistically,
fine,
like
honestly.
what do I need? Like
honestly,
the free
if you're that worried
and
about status, you can buy top stat. You can just pay for the Hilton credit card and you get top status with it. I mean, you don't have to do anything.
We've wasted enough time on this
exactly.
again.
Thank you, Cliff. I'm glad you're on your way, and congratulations joining in a very select few who own the rank of platinum at Marriott. There's almost none. Okay, you read the last email, and then we'll be good.
Hey guys, long time no email. I was listening to the latest episode on my way home after an insane trip when you started throwing out the DEX commands. I was exhausted and laughing so hard that I almost had to pull over. The weekend before I went to Initial American, December 2020, I cleaned out my home office and found my old DEX codes booklet that I had bought when I was at Eagle in 04.
I had that same
I remember
booklet.
buying that at the little shop at the Flight Academy.
Left it in my luggage.
At the same time,
10 million pound stealth bag.
Right. Started on the path to a torn rotator cuff.
Yeah.
At the same time as the E145 flashcards they sold there, I threw that thing away because I assumed there was no way they're still using decks. So imagine my surprise when on the first day of Indog, they start teaching us the same codes and have us all sign into Sabre. BSIP, baby. They gave me my old employee number back. I still had HI6s from 20 years ago in there. Sabre remembered me. They still use all those same codes just under what they call a mask because nobody has a change key on their phone. I'll attach a screenshot of my HI3 this week for a trip down memory lane. There are two, the first day and then the result of a diversion. There's some RO, AF, stub, RCD, good times. Obviously, there's just for you guys. Since we were fellow Beagles back then before James and I were at RH together. So weird how small aviation was and still is. Still love the podcast after all these years. Glad to be an OG listener from episode 1, Rachel. Dude.
Yeah.
They still use this at American?
Yeah, but there's like they take all the information from Sabre. Sabre's still the foundation, but then they like take it.
There's like an interface, like
and
an
there's
HTML,
some interface,
like a website type interface.
Right before I left, that was their huge development. And they're like, we have a new system. And you're like, no, you're still using Sabre from 19. When was that developed? In like the 70s? When hard landing? I mean, and I'm just looking at this right now. My eyes are bleeding on this diverted stub. Gee, Christmas.
Remember that? That was the hardest part of the whole job.
BSIP, yeah, and you had to do the whole, wow.
What's BSIP?
That's what you sign in. That's how you sign in.
I remember. Is that what it was to sign in?
Yeah, you had to like do change decks and then BSIP, your employee number, I think, and then your password.
What a deal. Well,
what a deal.
Like we said, things have come a long way in the airline business.
In some ways.
And some things just don't change.
Shout out to Rachel. She was like, I think maybe the first listener that ever wrote us an email.
Really?
Ever, I think, yeah. Or one of them. I remember. I'll never forget because I think Lindsay and I were on a walk and our email buzzed. And I'm like, someone just wrote to our show. That means somebody's listening to the show.
You know what's the best is that there's all these emails that I think we both get, right?
Yeah. And you respond to every one of them immediately?
I see, before we read these on the show, I think I see maybe 20%. I don't know how so many of them slip through the cracks.
You're a busy guy.
It's like I know somebody else is going to take them and put them on this sheet for me to read.
Yeah, exactly. It's like someone else will take care of it. Well, you're busy researching fuel bladders on Cessna 414.
I provide content.
Yeah, you're the spirit of the show. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for the mailbag. Thanks to Advanced Air Crew Academy. As always, aircrewacademy.com. Check out all the offerings they have for professional pilots. Get yourself educated. And we're going to talk about education here coming up in Flight Advice. Let's get right into it with some advice to all of our listeners, and that's to visit harveywatt.com to find out the protections that are available for professional pilots around the globe. Let's talk about the life insurance program at Harvey Watt, which I proudly hold, Max, to protect your sister and my wife in case something happens. I know I will be covered. My family will be protected because there's almost no exclusions. Visit harveywatt.com to check out all of the offerings they have for professional pilots. All right. Why don't you read me the flight advice? I answer all the emails. I do everything. You read the flight advice.
I'm a CFI approaching 500 hours and have tried to be content with my place in the time building journey. However, as I get closer to the next steps, I'm afraid my education isn't up to snuff. Where should I be sticking my nose to start getting into professional pilot realms of information? Systems, procedures, insurances, and the like all seem behind a wall, whether real or imagined, that I'm unsure how to break through. Dan,
great point. You need to get your Series 9 for insurance. So get working on that.
Start there.
Yeah.
No, well, it depends on what you want to do, though. Like, I feel like you have to know a lot more to be a corporate pilot, like if you're going to manage ultimately an operation. But a lot of that you learn on the way up, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that kind of stuff yet. I wrote down, I have a few things I thought would be good, and I think maybe you can expand upon them in the way that you do as the spirit of the show. Here, this reminded me of when I first got hired at American Eagle, and I remember I was in the new hire class, and of all the new hires, I was the only person that like understood the principles of how a turbine engine worked. Not at like a granular level, but just sort of like the big base. Like,
well, we took a whole class, a whole semester of it. So
yeah. Okay, so there's one.
Did you stand up and start to teach?
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, I know. I went
Listen,
to
everybody,
Embry-Riddle.
I
know.
attended Embry-Riddle Aeronautical
Harvard
University.
of the Skies. Yeah,
Harvard
you may
of the
have heard of
Skies.
it. I got a
Sir,
B
do
in
you
that
have a
class.
whiteboard marker?
Yeah.
And a pointer I could borrow?
Exactly.
Perhaps a model?
Yeah. No, but like so you could just start there. How does a turboprop work and how does a jet engine work? What's a compressor do? What's a turbine do? What about the, accessory gearbox? Maybe it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're probably flying a turbine engine at some point in your career. Like that's going to be useful for you to understand at a basic level. It doesn't have to be,
Dude, and the other thing too, that we didn't have back then, there's got to be, all of this stuff has got to be on YouTube.
Oh yeah. It's all, and then I have another thing. James O'Neill told there's an entire Embraer, I think it's the 170 or 190 ground school is on YouTube and we have the link for it. So I'm going to share that in the show notes. So you could literally go through a systems course via YouTube on a modern.
I know what I'm doing the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly. So you could go through that and just start to learn about some of the systems. You may not have to, just like why do we have pneumatic systems? What do we use hydraulics for? Some of that kind of stuff might be good next level stuff that'll help you. I don't think that really matters. Whatever you decide to do in your future, that's good foundational information.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I mean, people show up with all varying levels of knowledge and stuff. And it will make it depend on how easy ground school is for you or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like your first type rating is a lot
hard. Yeah.
And if you at least have the basis of like what a pneumatic system does and hydraulics and blah, 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 it will make adapting that to the specific airplane much easier.
Right. How do we start a turbine engine? And then the other foundational thing which also makes your first type rating really hard or your first training is that you don't know how to fly with two pilots. Most people don't. And again, there's SOPs specific to every company and who does what. It changes a little bit. But starting to think about some of those two crew concepts, there's probably some really good videos on YouTube. I don't have anything specific for that right now. Maybe you do. But just like, how do you run it? How does a crew run a checklist? Wait, who touches it? How do we manipulate the autopilot? When the autopilot or the flight mode selector, that kind of stuff. You could start to dig into that a little bit too, I think.
Yeah. The other thing that would be really cool is if you do have flight sim, if you watch that ground school on the Embraer and then you fly it, like start the engines and like look at the system synoptics if it has them and all of that. I think that would really tie the two together.
Yep. Yeah. So some CRM stuff. Our friends at Advanced Aircrew Academy have CRM classes you can take. There's CRM videos on YouTube.
But yeah, that you also have here, Dylan listed this Code 7700 website. That website is incredible. We need to interview that too.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very busy, but there's a lot of great information there. Again, some of it's going to be over your head. So you kind of got to pick and choose, it's like the finer points of like negotiating a heavy maintenance inspection and how to find the best aircraft insurance. That's not what we're trying to do. Is like, how do the airplanes work? How do you fly with two pilots? You kind of focus on that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I had another one. I was going to see what you thought. There's a great book or iPad app called Everything Explained for the Professional Pilot. If you don't have that, I highly recommend it. That's a great resource.
That is a great book. And
why it's great is because it takes the information from all of the different books and advisory circulars and the FAR-AIM and and ACs and everything, and it puts it in one place. So when you're like, I need to read about like alternate requirements, it puts everything in one spot. And 121 and 135. So instead of like going to 9 different places, it kind of summarizes everything for you in one place. Because otherwise you wouldn't even know, that this other thing exists in another place. So that's a great book. Highly worth investing in, or iPad app, I think. So
yeah,
good stuff. Okay.
Or just if you have a thought, this is what I do. It sounds totally stupid, but it's true. When I think about something that I'm wondering about, I'll do this a lot of times, like on trips when I'm like, by myself a lot here in the hotel room or whatever. And you can like hold a whole conversation with ChatGPT now.
Yeah.
You can be like, hey, so how does this work? And it'll explain to you and be like, well, but what about in this situation? It'll be like, oh, well, in this situation, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, like you could end up like having a conversation with your phone. It's insane.
It's amazing. Now, is all of the information it's giving you 100% true? You have to depend. Depends on the context of what
It
you're
sounds
doing.
like it.
Yeah,
Sounds.
it
he
speaks
sounds
with
very
authority.
confident.
Yeah, it sure answers like it does. Why does the DoubleTree in Spokane continue to have popcorn ceilings? That would be a good question for it. How much would it cost to scrape 252 rooms? I remember that first house you bought, and we had to scrape the ceiling. Big pull.
We took a popcorn ceiling shower. That was the best. Remember, I gave it a courtesy spray though of water, so it wasn't so dusty for you.
So bad.
That was for you.
Max bought the first big screen. There was this website called Woot, I remember, and you bought the first big screen TV, 60-inch TV.
65, dude. Back
65. This TV must have weighed, I don't know, 100 pounds.
No, more than that, dude.
More.
It was
but a 65-inch TV that weighs 100-something pounds, you got to have at least two dudes carry. I mean, it's so awkward.
It had huge handles, remember, built in. I made you move that with me 3 times.
3 times. I can't believe it.
What did we do?
Where is it?
Did you chuck something? No, remember one of my kids' friends whipped something into the screen and broke it after all those years. And then
we should have taken it out. If it wasn't so heavy, we should have taken it and shot it with a gun. But that would have been way too much work.
You would have loved that. That would have been like you in the copier at an Office Space.
Yeah,
you could have played some gangster rap, and you could have taken your aggression out.
The thing would have bit back. It would have gotten its revenge on me. I bet it would have broken the bat if I hit it. Oh gosh! All right, that's gonna do it for flight advice. If you need flight advice, you know where to go. Our website, 215podcast.com. There is a green button on there. You can click and fill out the form. You can do it anonymously. You can fill out information to your comfort level. Your age, familial status, and location are always super helpful. And also, as we discussed in the last episode, if it's relevant, please add in how many hours a month you're flying, or your whatever metric you want, but just another good fact for us. So that's going to do it, Max. I got to go. I got a lunch date here.
That's it. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Who with?
My wife.
Oh.
Yeah. Should be
I
great.
was going to be with the local Gulfstream sales rep. He was hitting me up for lunch today.
Oh, really?
I was like, what? Did you steal my lunch date? Homeboy's in town with his expense account. Nobody to have lunch with.
Come on. That'd be great. That'll be next time.
All right.
We got to get that AIN score up. It's going to be a big lunch.
I said hi.
Big lunch. All right. Thanks to Harvey Watt. Thanks to Advanced Air Crew Academy, Veris Jet Sales, the AirComp Calculator, and of course, all of our listeners. We love hearing from you with comments, reviews, emails, flight advice. Without you guys, we'd just be typing in HI3s and I don't know what else. Researching 414s.
All this free time on our hands. Yeah. We wouldn't know what to do with it.
Max would be talking to ChatGPT in his hotel room.
Yeah. I'd be querying ChatGPT about obscure facts.
All right. That is going to do it. We'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Until then, remember,
flexibility is the key to air power. See you next time.
The statements made in this show are our own opinions and do not reflect, nor were they under any direction from any of our employers.